I'm going to make a start. For those of you who I haven't met before, my name's Charlie Crane from the Children and Young People Policy Team at Sport England. And I've been working, myself and Matt Tallum have been working really closely with Deborah and Lenny from Think Public to lead the Positive Experiences Collective. So as I said this morning, really excited to be with you here today. This afternoon session, it's our second workshop, Stories from the Field. So these are two patchwork programme teams who have been doing some fantastic work around embedding physical literacy into the work they've been doing across their organisations. Today's topic is Girls in Motion, tackling inequity, building confidence and staying active session. And like I said, I'm really pleased to welcome the two patchwork programme teams who've been doing some great work over the last 9 months to help girls have more positive experiences of sport and physical activity. And in doing so, fostering a lifelong relationship with movement. Now, we know through our Active Lives data that we have some real challenges as girls get older in retaining them in sport and physical activity. And, you know, the recent Women in Sport research shows around young girls not feeling a sense of belonging from a very, very young age in the world of sport and physical activity. And more recently, the work they've been doing to advocate for girls only provision. And I think that's something we're sort of reflecting on internally based on that fantastic research. So we've got an hour together. If we wrap up earlier, that's absolutely fine. What I would encourage you to do is please use the chat box to share any reflections or any questions you have, because after the first presentation, we'll do a quick Q&A and then do a second Q&A afterwards. So first we'll hear from Nant from Active Cheshire, Kelly Gordon from England Netball, and they are joined by Lauren, which is fantastic, from the School Sports Partnership, who will share how they've embedded physical literacy into practice for her. We'll then hand over to Dan from Active Kent and Medway, and Sarah and Jodie from Medway Public Health to explore the work they've been doing through Medway's Mind in Motion programme. So a fantastic lineup this afternoon. I'm so pleased we've had 43 dial-in, given the heat, given the childcare, and just given the hotness of today. So thank you so much. This will be recorded as well, so you can then share it wider with your colleagues after today. So without further ado, I shall hand over to Kelly and Nant and Lauren. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Can we move on to the next slide, please? There we go. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us today and listen to the work we've been doing. So our project, embedding physical literacy into practice for her, and as the name sort of suggests, really, it's about us trying to understand through the lens of female health. How do we create environments for young girls to enjoy taking part in sport and physical activity? You know, all the stats that we've known out there, you know, already suggesting that why girls aren't as active as boys. You know, for those who have been in the sector will also understand that girls is one of the key priority areas for us in terms of our work towards tackling inequality. So that's kind of a sense in, you know, what our project is about and what we're looking to do. You know, I'm really pleased to be working in partnership with England Netball and the Cheshire and Warrington School Sport Alliance, which is a group that's formed with all the school sport partnerships and school games organisers across Cheshire and Warrington. So yeah, so we'll go and tell you more about our work. Next slide, please, Charlie, if that's okay. So we thought we'd start with the why, but rather than tell you guys about all the stats that you probably know out there in terms of, you know, why the girls aren't as active as boys, why there's still gaps in participation, equality for children and young people in our area, etc., etc. And for those that have been with us since the morning, we've seen some of that from Charlie's slides earlier as well, you know, around some of the statistics nationally. But we thought we'll give you a why, as in what it means for us as a group working on this, what it means for us to come together and wanting to do this piece of work, you know. And I thought actually this why that you can see there on the screen from Lauren captures really well why we got together and why we wanted to kind of go on this journey. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just give it sort of 15, 20 seconds for everyone to just take this in? Okay. And for us, just to build on this point as well, it's about creating that stronger collaborations and partnership and putting system thinking, at the center of policy and delivery, as Charlie talked about this morning. It's about putting children and young people and girls in particular at the heart of what we do and at the heart of decision making. And then creating that kind of sort of power of advocates for leaders and championing change in this area of work. Um, Lauren, is there anything you might want to add to this, conscious that this is came from you directly?
Yeah, I just think it's just it reflects the main purpose of the project in general. And it's something that, I try and do within my job role daily. So, it's been a real privilege to actually work with this project and try and gain an insight into girls and how they feel about physical activity and see if we can change any of those thinkings as well.
Thanks, Lauren. Um, Next slide, please, Charlie. Thank you very much. So what we've started to do really is at this stage of the project, getting to know uh, uh, who the girls are and the young people that we will be working with. It's not really what we understanding so far is that their behaviors around physical activity is not just about who they are. A good proportion of the girls, it's not that they don't want to take part in sport and physical activity, it's that not they're not interested, it's they're disengaged from physical activity and sport. But this that's actually doesn't mean this is who they are. It might be that, we don't really fully understand who yet. You know, as you can see there, one of the things that we found was actually disengaged from being active. Never mind a team sport like netball, for example, which we know can be really, really intimidating. You know, and on top of that, overlaying the fact that the body's changing and the lack of self-confidence around female health as well. We're at that stage now where we're trying to understand all of these sort of things to then kind of sort of take us towards the next steps. And I like to invite Lauren again, who's been doing some, really good work with the girls over the last few weeks to just add a little bit more insight from the conversation you've been having, if that's okay, Lauren.
Yeah, so I just wanted to explain, why we chose this specific group of girls and how we got there. So we tried to identify a target school. With that, we analysed like a range of data resources, which was information from Active Cheshire and from the Youth Sport Trust, looking at results that we have for that. So we selected a school that was in an area of high deprivation and looked closely at indicators like pupil premium, free school meals, and persistent absences. But also, one of the interesting things about this particular school was they had the highest percentage of boys in a high school across the whole of Warrington. So for that, we felt that possibly the girls weren't given the same opportunities as some of the boys. So we got in contact with the head of PE there, who had an idea of the kind of girls that we wanted to participate in this project, which was a class of year 9 girls, bottom set PE. So we had a wide variety of personalities, we had a wide variety of interests, hobbies. Some of those girls had previously been engaged in sport, specifically netball, and had dropped off, but then there was some that hadn't played at all. So again, it was just like a complete wide variety of, wants and needs. So it was things like also they had different sexualities, which they were quite open about as well. So that's just the basis of how we got to that specific group. Yeah.
Thanks, Lauren. Next slide, please, Charlie. Okay. I'll let you carry on, Lauren, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. So this one, what we did find was like what I've just said previously. We had a variety of girls and personalities. And these girls have had a male PE teacher since September, who was lovely, had a great relationship with them. However, he was, I would say, a little bit prejudiced towards certain things. So he had his thoughts and feelings about, specific girls being interested in netball, that they were the previous players. So, they'll know what they're doing kind of thing. The other girls will just, copy them and follow suit. But actually, it was about we wanted to get to know the girls and see from their perspective what they thought about team sports and specifically netball. And what we found was that a lot of them don't like competition. Because that's what their PE lessons look like all of the time. So we would just constantly play competition games with them during PE. And these were probably the only time these girls would get some kind of physical activity. So they weren't, didn't have hobbies outside of school. They didn't do things with the families where they were being active. So it was just their PE lessons was the only part of their life where they were being active. So for that, they were just constantly getting competition all the time. So it made them fall out of love with physical activity that little bit.
Thanks, Lauren. That's so insightful and that's so rich, isn't it? And if I could draw your attention to the yellow box there, this came directly from the delivery from England Netball, who's been in the school and working directly with the girls. And she sort of summarized this for us, which I thought is really, really important. Is that at the moment, we're capturing such a wide range of personalities, reason as to why, these girls do something or don't do something, the likes, the dislikes, etc., etc. But actually, it's about the approach that we take in to try to understand them, to get to know them, and then putting them at the heart of what we're going to be doing, and that's the journey that our team has been on. Um, so to move us on, if I can pass over to Kelly, if that's okay. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Non. Thank you, Lauren. Hi, everybody. For those that you were sharp enough to see on the front slide, that was Helen Wynne, and it's actually Helen who's head of participation at England Netball that's led this work with Non and Lauren, and also a member of Helen's team. So I am speaking on behalf of Helen. I am executive lead for Netball Her at England Netball. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that Helen was the one that's done this. She's actually honeymooning in Italy right now, so in a probably better place, in a cooler, at least putting her feet in a lake or something than we all are. So yes, just wanted to add that as context. So just to run through some of the headlines that have come through so far, and I guess a note here that it's still quite early on in terms of engagement with the girls. But the first point there around many are open to it, they're not disengaged, they're not disinterested, they're disengaged, which picks up on the point before. So those of you that have seen the Women in Sport research around teenage girls states that 43%, so 43% of teenage girls who considered themselves sporty in primary school no longer see themselves in that way at secondary school. So I always use this stat, but that's actually equivalent to 1 million girls, which is the whole population of Birmingham. So from that primary school to secondary school, you've just got this loss of girls. And I think the key message there is that they were quite engaged potentially at primary school, but something's gone wrong at secondary school. And I guess what we're trying to unpick here is what is that and how do we address that? Most of the girls stated themselves or have so far said that they didn't necessarily suddenly lose interest in being active during secondary school. It's just that participation became harder, potentially became less relevant, less enjoyable. And the challenge here is to understand those barriers and then create the environments that work better for the girls and their lives and their experiences, and picking up on Lauren's point around really understanding their backgrounds and their context. So that's one thing. So the second point there is around it's a perception thing. It makes me laugh because that's such Helen Wynne language. It's a perception thing and it's deep rooted. So many of the girls have already formed beliefs about whether they belong in sport and whether they're good enough. So that transition from primary school to secondary school, they've decided whether or not sport's for them and whether or not they're good enough to take part in whatever that format of sport looks like in the secondary school setting. Wrapped into that, puberty, body changes, confidence, peer influences, previous experience, then all play a role in determining that. And then, as Lauren said, I think it's a really, really important point that can all be reinforced by a teacher. And it could be one comment or, one thing that's said maybe as a joke or maybe as a side comment that could actually just reinforce that thinking. So again, just a really important, I guess, reflection really that came through from the people working on it to be considered. As a positive, I guess they're the more negatives, but as a positive, there was a general agreement that sport, physical activity can build confidence, belief, and resilience. And I know from the England Netball research and certainly from the work we've been doing around Netball Her, this is one of the strongest piece of insight that's come through in terms of girls' engagement in team sport, particularly. So where their mental health is maybe and their anxieties may be a bit of a low, actually that sense of belonging and girls together and girls talking together can really help boost confidence, boost self-belief, boost resilience, social connection, etc. But I think one of the things we've got to really consider here, and it being a girls' sport, is that could also go the other way with girls. And we know that girls' friendship groups can change quite quickly. And again, just being aware of that sport can play a really powerful role in helping reinforce how girls feel about themselves and really that sense of belonging. But if we get it wrong, it can also go the other way. So again, being really mindful of that at this age, I think is really important. And a really interesting one that's come through, which I sort of had a few questions around when we were talking about the session, was around the female health content. So again, from a Netball Her perspective, we've done a lot of work around how we give teachers information around supporting girls through puberty, having the conversation around sports bras, having the conversation around periods and body changes and all those sorts of things. But actually what's really come through here, really interestingly, is it's so important to land that message, one, at the right time, and two, by the right person who's built those relationships with those girls. So far what the team have done working with them is to throw in bits of conversation around body changes, sports bras, periods, how that can impact, but importantly haven't gone deep. So they haven't said, right, here's a workshop and let's all do a bra fitting or let's all learn about menstrual cycle and your periods, because there isn't the relationship there to do that at the moment. That will hopefully come in time. But I think it's a really, really important message that trust has got to be built first, relationships have got to be there, and most importantly, a safe space has got to be there to land messages. So I think there's some real gems that have come through that I guess now need to be tested. But that one, particularly with my Netball Her hat on, was quite a good learning. Thanks, Nom.
Thank you, Kelly. Really, really useful insight there. If we can move on, please, Charlie, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to take everyone back a couple of steps, really. And again, as part of the program, we've gone through a whole journey in terms of, working with our thinking. As you may have heard, Deborah spoke this morning, is about how we kind of sort of put the design at the heart of this. So as a kind of sort of working team on this project, we kind of came away with, you know what, if we were to place a bet, or bets if you want to call it, what were the two biggest things that we think we should be learning, or we're going to think we're going to learn, or we're going to, have a biggest impact on. And actually, when you've heard some of the stuff that Lauren spoke about, and when you've heard about some of the stuff that Kelly spoke about, about that positive environment for girls to feel like they belong, when you look at the orange box there, you can kind of sort of see where our thinking was, embarking on this piece of work. But at the same time, when we've also realized and appreciate that to create those positive environments, the adults have got a really, really important role in this as well. And the example that Lauren gave about the PE teacher here as well. So actually, a really big part of this work will also be about us working with the adults and trying to work with them and support them around their kind of sort of change journey as well. Next slide, please, Charlie. Thank you. And if more than anything, really, we just want to show you guys that we've actually gone into the schools, done some work with the girls, and capturing some of the really richness and the stuff that have come out of the conversation with them. Unfortunately, we couldn't use the pictures that we've taken with the girls, but actually, what I just want to draw on the kind of sort of the feedback sheets that you can see there, which came directly from the girls themselves. When you look at some of the language that's on there, the purpose of the environment, the gossip bench, somewhere to be with the girls, and not just the benching like a standard netball game, snack fridge, etc., etc. It just that kind of sort of things has to be right for them is so important, and it kind of actually reinforces the point that I've made earlier about that these are girls who not disinterested, they're just disengaged at the moment because the environment isn't right for them. And if you can move on to the next slide, please, Charlie, that'd be great. Thank you. And being part of the patchwork program, it has actually really helped us to crystallize that thinking. And I remember a conversation when we start speaking about this is, oh, we're going to change the world. We're going to do everything right. We're going to put increase girl participation, etc., etc. But actually, when you look back at the kind of sort of the journey we've been on, what the program has taught us really is actually, it's not about going fast. It's about going in the right and approaching it in the right way. And there's been tips and tools and kind of sort of guidance given as part of the program that has helped us to crystallize our thinking, to shape our thinking. What Deborah and Charlie spoke about this morning about helping us with our leadership journey. And that kind of sort of getting people to come on this work with us has been really helpful. So, if we were to do this piece of work without the support given from the patchwork program, it may well have looked very different. But actually, it's really important to recognize, the stuff that we've learned along the way and the practices that we'll then take on board with our future pieces of work as well. So yeah, just want to give a big shout out to the program. So next one, please, Charlie. So what does that mean then for us? So, as you can kind of sort of gathered, we are still at that kind of sort of, foundation stage. We want to build it right. We want to have a really strong foundations. Kelly and Lauren spoke about getting to know the girl, building trust and rapport with the girl. We also know that this, work has been done elsewhere before. And actually, one of the best pieces of advice that I was given as part of this work was that if you don't do this right, you could do it really badly with all the good intention in the world. And then from an England netball perspective, obviously giving a shout out to Helen, as Kelly mentioned before as well, her vision is for this to be the basis of the national wide approach for the teen girls work, which is absolutely fantastic. And I'm hoping from an active partnership point of view that this isn't just something for netball, it's something that every sport can look at and go, yeah, there's learning and there's stuff that we can take from. Also, the work that Lauren do locally as well. As you'll know, the landscape of school sport partnership is changing, the focus of the work is changing, and actually we're not influencing just Lauren and her work, but actually the work of other local school sport partnership across Cheshire and Warrington as well. And more importantly, it also informs our own work and understanding of women and girls in place as well as where we are currently as an organisation. Next one, please, Charlie. And I'll hand you over to you, Kelly, just to wrap things up.
Thanks, Non. Just before I do that, the point about influencing nationally, England Netball's approach to particularly secondary school, it's really fundamental. I can't underplay that. I think a while ago, Helen and I went up to a school in Bolton, and we just did a one visit, and the head teacher there was amazing. And all they wanted was bench ball, and it was just a really simple takeaway that if you come in here and you land netball, and it, for all the reasons we've just said today, you'll get 3 netball girls turn up. But if you say it's bench ball and you just take any labels off it and don't even put any bibs on, you'll get far more girls. And it's And it's things like that. And then now we're going deep into it with this program that we really need to think about and talk about how we potentially position the sport in a different way. So yeah, not just to bring it to life a little bit, that it really is going to mean something for the work nationally. So just to wrap us up, an obvious headline statement to begin with, girls are 50% of young people. So we do need to think about, when we're designing programs, environments, experiences, that we consciously put a girl's lens on what we're doing. And we don't just think about it. And also those girls that are in front of us aren't one type of girl. So an obvious thing to start with. I guess just to repeat some of the themes that have come through here. As we've heard, girls' experiences of sport are influenced by so much more than the activity itself, and that girls aren't disinterested in being active, they're disengaged, as we've heard a few times. We've heard that perceptions are deeply rooted, confidence and belonging matter, and that relationships are often the key to help bringing girls together and stay connected, and making sure that that's nurtured and looked after in the right way. So really thinking about just some really questions, I guess, to ask yourselves, or when you're working with partners, just really thinking about who is the girl, or who are the girls in front of us, and what might she need right now, and thinking about the context. Lauren, I think that message there on understanding the school, understanding the environment those girls are coming from, the challenges they're facing at home, and that's some of the stuff that the Bolton head teacher shared with us, the real challenges that those girls are leaving school and going home to. Really need to understand that. Thinking about how does she think, how does she feel, how does she move, what does she like in terms of movement, what doesn't she like, how does she connect with others and with that activity, thinking about what influences her confidence, her sense of belonging, what motivates her. All of those things will impact on how she engages in sport and physical activity. And I think those that are designing sport and physical activity need to be led by that girl's lens first, because that's when you'll get the outcomes for the positive experience for the girls. So thank you very much for listening to us. I think we're going to use the chat, are we, Charlie, or we open up to questions?
Yeah, chat's great to me. We've probably got about 3 or 4 minutes for questions, if that's all right. But that was really enlightening, and just how you summed it up at the end, how does she think? How does she feel? How does she connect? I think is just so powerful, and just makes you frame this through the lens of that young girl who is having a really tricky time with their relationship with movement. We know that physical literacy, your relationship with movement ebbs and flows. So that's been really powerful. And Jane has shared in the chat that they're looking at doing some similar work with year 10 girls in their school as well.
Charlie,
I don't have any. Sorry.
On that point, I think it's not making assumptions. I think what we've got to be careful at is that we think, oh, well, we know the girls' backgrounds because we've had loads of those girls like her before, and we know our community. Asking the girls is the most important thing, isn't it? How do you find a way to engage with the girls and ask them what they want and what their challenges are and that sort of thing. So I think we just got to be careful when we say understand the girls, that we don't do that with assumptions and preconceived ideas, which potentially we've heard can be done today.
Yeah, no, definitely, Kelly. And I think for me, that's the physical literacy informed approach, which is actually you put that young person front and central to any of this work. Helena, should we come to you?
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering if you've worked with anyone in the Sport Welfare Officer Network. I'm one of the SWOs, and I've been working with violence against women and girls officers across London, and we're looking into this area in terms of how to break down some of the barriers that girls might face in being active, but from a welfare standpoint, and educating girls on how to spot concerns and how to, with the people who are working with the girls, to make sure that they're not breaching any professional boundaries. And I wondered if that's any of welfare or safeguarding has been touched on or considered or within the approach or the project, sorry.
Would you like me to take this one, team?
Go for it, Non. Yeah.
Yeah, and I may well end up bringing you here in here, Kelly. So from an Active Cheshire point of view, obviously we as an active partnership we host the role ourselves. Even though we've not particularly collaborated and kind of sort of worked together on this piece of work, we've actually done a wider piece of work around women and girls participation. In its kind of sort of the broader sense, if you like. So yeah, those elements and those sort of things has definitely come on. And Kelly, you might want to jump in and add some insight here because I know you've been heavily involved with that piece of work as well. And I also believe that from a national kind of England netball point of view, one of the network that we've identified, well, through conversation with Helen, we've identified that the SBO network will be one of the very kind of priority networks that we like to take this learning and this piece of work to share with to be, disseminated into their relevant areas locally.
Yeah, so through the Active Cheshire work, and another Lauren at the time was the sports welfare officer, and we did a puberty webinar for clubs. So we did an introduction to how to engage girls through puberty, barriers, etc. How to have the conversation, some almost do's, don't do's, if you like, kept it quite top level, and then linked them. I think this is the most important bit, and I say this from a netball her perspective as well. Signposting. So if there is anything flagged as a concern, don't try and answer it yourself. If it's if it's a welfare issue, or if it's someone talking about their female health and you don't start diagnosing them, it's most important to know where to signpost. So as part of those webinars, we cover the basics of this is puberty, these are the challenges, this is some top tips around how to engage girls, but most importantly, here's a really good resource, here's a really good place to go to if you've got any questions, and signpost into the relevant sources. And I might be right or wrong saying this, but it's certainly with female health and wellbeing, we're governing bodies or active partnerships or school sports partnerships. We're not female health experts. And I think, the role we can play is start a conversation and then signpost. And I'd say, you, Helena, you specialise in welfare, but I guess it's the same principle, really. It's how far do you go before it then becomes a welfare issue that you then need to signpost off. So yeah, I've done different workshops like that across different APs, active partnerships.
Wonderful. So yeah, thank you, Helena. Right, I mean, that's been a fantastic presentation, and I think everything that you've said resonates so strongly with the physical literacy. This is about helping girls build a fantastic relationship with movement that withstands the life transitions that they go through. So it's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Nont. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Kelly. And thank you to Helen, who's obviously honeymooning at the moment. So there may be some questions later on. Please do have a look at the chat. There was a question there from Alison about how this work has been funded. If you can respond to those while we move over to Kent and Medway, that would be fantastic. So Daniel and team, are you ready to go?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, I will driving your slides over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, we can go straight into the next slide. So just a quick introduction from us as the team over in Kent and Medway. So I'm Daniel Bromley, another active partnership, and I'm from Active Kent and Medway. And when I first became involved in this programme, I was working as the Children and Young People's Development Officer with a real focus on inequality and underrepresented groups, so including girls. But given 9 months is a very long time in the sector, I've actually changed roles since then, and I'm now a place programme manager, which is focusing more on system-wide change, particularly around children and young people and their families, so still nicely linked. I'm also father of 2 young girls, which gives me some personal perspective on all the challenges, but also the importance of tailoring positive experiences for girls. That being said, I am not a girl and I've never been a teenage girl, so I'm delighted to introduce Sarah Holiday from Medway Public Health at this point. There's really been a lead inspiration for this work.
Hello, everyone. So I'm a physical activity project officer for Medway Public Health, and I focus on children and young people. I also have girls, 3 of them, so it's really important for me to encourage them to move and have a positive relationship with movement. Jodie, unfortunately, is not with us today, but she's been a massive part of the work that we're doing, and she's the child health project officer for Medway Public Health. So she has an insight into the curriculum when it comes to PSHE for schools in Medway.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, and as you can see, this work is largely about addressing that inactivity in girls. But the project did evolve, and we're going to talk you a little bit through that. But this was our sort of our starting point, that problem, that opportunity, and we knew that there was drop off in participation of teenage girls. And we can see here from the active lives data that you can see on screen that inactivity was as high as 26% for girls in Medway, and obviously that was a lot lower than boys, who inactivity levels of those doing less than 30 minutes, just to be clear, was 20.3% of boys. So, a real 6% difference between girls and boys in Medway. And that was also backed up by the national data that you could see at the time, where you can see there that obviously girls nationally, secondary girls, this is 30% of girls were less active compared to 27% of boys nationally. So we knew that as we've all done over the years, we've seen that girls in activity sort of outweighs boys, apart from the time around COVID, where obviously team boys sports were reduced. But again, those gaps have started to reappear, as we know. But we wanted to change that narrative, and we wanted to really, promote the benefits of the enjoyment of movement, particularly around relieving exam stress for girls, and also the benefits of physical activity around different points of the period cycle. So again, we were trying to look at informing partners of how we could do that. So if you want to go to the next slide, Charlie. And just to, again, give the scale of the problem, and try not to be too misery maps with this, but in Medway, across both boys and girls, as the programme evolved in January this year, we saw that Medway was the least active district of the whole county. So quite a big county in Kent we are, so with 12 districts and one unitary authority, which is Medway. So again, we wanted to look at the wider approaches to the system. What is it that is affecting participation in Medway broadly, and those conditions? So again, there was lots of opportunity around whole school approaches and those system approaches to physical activity that we wanted to explore. So if you can go to the next slide for me, Charlie. So I guess we're on to the more sort of the opportunity part here. We really wanted to sort of look at, right, okay, we know that there is a challenge. We know that we obviously want to increase girls' physical activity, but also, as we've just seen across the whole district, that there is a real inactivity challenge. So we had a whole group of partners that was part of a project that was already been running successfully, which is the Medway Physical Activity Alliance, which Sarah and her team organised. And we realised that was a real opportunity to start to sow the seed of physical literacy and positive experiences in this space. So as you can see, there's lots of different logos on there, and we really wanted to get some non-traditional partners from health, community safety, housing association, active travel, voluntary and charitable organisations to all form part of that solution. We're talking about movement experiences here. So we really wanted to bring that to the fore and present. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that there are Sarah and I in front of 100 odd partners presenting around physical literacy, and just starting to build that into everybody's thinking. And some of you may have, or if you haven't, please do check it out. There's a video that really shows system partners. It's on the Positive Experiences website, to how everybody is part of that system, of how we can create those conditions for movement and physical activity. And literally 5 minutes before we went on stage here, that January data, Active Lives new release, was there. So we're literally looking at the data just before we went up on stage, and it really re-emphasized the fact we needed to think bigger, and we needed to really use the system partners in the room to start to build those conditions and opportunities. So again, we were thinking about obviously the conditions around move, think, feel, connect, and we started to provide that. Obviously, the elements around enjoyment, the meaning and value of physical activity, all of those physical literacy principles, but just really bringing that to the fore and showing how every single movement requires that positive experience. So, but we were also very aware, if you want to go to the next slide, Charlie, there's a few clicks on this one, Charlie, I warn you now, but just how, so firstly, we wanted to realise that, in terms of every relationship is individual as well, particularly when we think about girls' participation. This is going to lead hopefully nicely on from the guy's presentation previously around actually what did girls tell us. So we're going to just show you how we did that, and we presented that to the group, and we said that our next step from that conference was we are going to go away and find what is it young girls are telling us about their barriers, their motivations, and why they're not engaging. So first and foremost, we had projects already. So we had mental health insight from some projects that we funded within schools in Chatham, which one of the most deprived secondary schools, the highest percentage of free school meals in the county. And we knew that they wanted private girls only sessions. We knew that type of insight was there already, but we wanted to build a bit more on that. Okay, that's great, we can do that. But what is it that's going to really help you within the system to be more active? And if you just want to click the first animation, Charlie, you can see that we started with some graffiti walls. So again, trying to just make that really sort of fun, interactive, arts based to try and get young girls just telling us, what is it that they wanted to feed back on. And again, Sarah went into the school that we delivered that initial mental wellbeing pilot. Actually wanted to speak to more girls around a dance festival. So again, some young girls weren't feeling necessarily that was a sport or maybe even a physical activity, but just seeing it as dance. And we just wanted to get some real positive responses using those graffiti walls. And also we were looking around, in addition to this, using that type of approach for questionnaires with minority ethnic groups as well, to really understand, as we knew there was inequalities within the demographic of culturally diverse communities as well. So again, building on that, trying to build that shape and that picture. And Sarah's going to talk you through what we found shortly. But also we was really pleased, if you want to click on again, Charlie, that we were able to start to influence the system and partners that non-traditional perhaps. And Jodie was really key in this to help us actually change the youth council's one big question. So every quarter, Medway Youth Council put out just one question, open-ended normally, and this is what we was able to influence them to include, to go out to all different areas of the youth system in education, youth services, and beyond. And the question was simply, young people in Medway would be more active if. And again, we're going to touch on what the insights found from that question. But it was really good that we were starting to influence what we needed to know, and actually people value in physical activity to use that as the one question for that quarter. And obviously there could have been so many other questions affecting young people. So one last animation click, Charlie, just for now, and then I will hand you over to Sarah to show you some of the findings. But we also looked into places, away from the traditional school or, yes, youth councils. We know that some young people from youth councils may not be always representative of the full group. So we actually went into one of our sort of deprived areas in Lordswood and did a youth club session. Sarah did that and did some feedback with them using some feedback boards and post-it notes, which I am now going to hopefully segue nicely over to Sarah to show you what we found. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next slide, please, Charlie. So just built a little post-it board, really, of the feedback that I received from the youth club setting to start. This was a girls-only youth club setting. It had been started because the girls said that the mixed sessions they weren't really enjoying them, and so the youth services team started a girls only session. So this is just some of the feedback that we got, and we weren't really asking direct questions. We just, myself and my teammate just asked, what do you think about activity? How are you active? And then it was an open conversation. So some of the things we captured was, I hate PE, it's boring. So we delved a little bit deeper into that. I don't like the clothes that I have to wear for PE. I don't like having to change out of my PE kit when it's my last period. Why can't I just go home in my PE kit? They spoke about wanting to have free drop-in sessions, about being judged if they're not good at something, so they wouldn't even try it because people there might be really good at it and they wouldn't be. And it was just really relaxed and really nice to understand what it is that they feel about moving and what they're thinking, and how we can use this information to go forward. Next slide, please. So we also sent out some surveys and went into some of the mosques in Medway. And this was some of the information that we got back. The questions, we asked 3 questions only. What stops you from being active even when you want to? And after speaking this morning about the social media ban, phone was the most reported answer on that question, that it distracts them, they start doom scrolling, and they find it difficult to move away from their phone because they don't want to miss out on what's going on with their friends on their phone. And as you can see, there's lots of other reasons of what would stop them, but a lot of mobile phone, a lot of TV, and a lot of social media there. Next slide, please. The other question we asked, are there people or environments that might make moving more comfortable? And this is the feedback we got from this. So more fun when they're with friends, it's the people. They like to be in a hall, a room. And on digging a little bit deeper, it was very much that they wanted a girls only sessions, and they wanted it to be very what's the word? Not secret, but no windows open so people can view in. One of the things that I noticed at the youth centre was that even though it was a girls group for the youth centre, there was boys constantly around the outside of the youth centre, banging on the windows, running away, trying to get the girls' attention, which some of them seemed to not be bothered by, but actually quite a few of them, it left them quite frustrated and angry. And that was just from the youth club. So yeah, just having a comfortable place that they feel safe in to be themselves with friends was what they asked for. Next slide, please. And then we asked if you could plan the perfect movement session for girls of your age, what would it look like? And dance came out on top. So we started to think about ways that we could provide these sessions where they didn't have their mobile phones and they could dance in a safe environment to help build their confidence. Next slide, please. So this was the data that we captured from One Big Question. Rob reported back to say that they had over 420 responses, either from young people themselves or staff that were working with young people. The top one was more club sports and activities in Medway and free or cheap gym memberships, and also knowing how to access activities. So with all of this data, we could really start to build a picture of what it is that's stopping people and what do the girls want to be able to start participating in activity. Next question, please. Slides, not question. We're on One Big Question. So we were starting to think about what could we do? What's our intention? What are the actions that we want to take from receiving all of this information, from all of this engagement that we're doing? We needed to show the young people that we were listening, taking on their responses, because that also came back. People ask us things like this all the time, nothing ever gets done, especially when I tell them I'm from Medway Council. They think, so it was really important for us to show them that we are listening and we do want to make a difference and we do want to help them find something they enjoy so that we can try and build up that relationship with activity. So we looked at talking about a whole system approach to young people. So trying to change their day at school to make it a little bit more active. We looked at the engagement results. And we were thinking about those groups that were maybe that we hadn't gone out to. Where could we find those people that weren't going out and engaging in these youth clubs? And then we felt that we really need to focus on organisations and communities create being active together. So going out to mosques and providing activity in their own community setting where they feel safe, and also starting to champion people that could advocate for moving more, that could then spread the word about physical literacy. Next slide, please. So we are very lucky in Medway to be part of the place-based funding that Sport England are doing. And so we were in the right timings to influence some test and learns that were happening. So these are the sessions that are running at the moment. They're 6-week test and learns. We're starting to get some feedback from those that participated. And so far it's looking really encouraging and looking really positive. So we listened, we put on some free dance classes just for women and girls. And this was held at a community centre. All of these classes and sessions were held in our deprived wards in Medway, and they were open to all. So people could just come along and drop in and take part. We also have some multi-sports programs running. We have 6 weeks Empower Her sessions running, which are all about building self-esteem, confidence, and talking about women's health as well. Girls Only Dodgeball 2, we have that running in Medway. Next slide, please, Charlie. These are just some of the things we have going. And then a dance and empowerment program, which was running from one of the most deprived areas, the secondary school there. And this was really focused on girls from the age of 13 to 17 from ethnic minority backgrounds. And this was very, very focused on self-confidence, kindness to oneself, self-care, as well as the movement. We also have some free walking sessions that are running in certain communities. We've got our Afro-Caribbean community where there's some walks going on. We're starting to look at training people in the community to deliver these sessions. So we have like walk leader training that people can take part in to be able to keep building upon everyone's relationship with physical activity and trying to encourage everyone that there's something for everybody. So that's what's happening at the moment. Next slide, please. So our 3 key takeaways from working together on this project. Without collaboration between our organisations, this would never have been possible. And I think just us coming together started, we started to sort of cross over a lot more in each other's work than we have ever done before. And also to be able to present to so many activity providers, healthcare settings, that you saw on the page where Dan showed you the picture of us presenting. That was key for us, just to try and get the message out there and for people to come to us and say, we really want to help you with this. Youth Voice is so important when it comes to creating any programs. We all think, or in the past with Medway Public Health, we think we understand what people want. We put on a program and we're wondering why it isn't attended very well. And so it's really started to shape the way we design our programs. Before any program starts, engagement happens, we listen and we learn from it to make sure that we have that youth voice at the forefront of everything that we do. And again, working with communities to understand their barriers and what it is that they need to be able to be more active. And we do feel that we're much stronger together. So collaboration is key. Next slide, please. There we go. Stronger together. All about collaboration. Dan, have you got anything to...
Sorry if I can get off mute. No, thank you, Sarah. I think you captured that brilliantly. But yeah, just happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sarah and Daniel. It's been a real pleasure working with you on the Patchwork programme. While people are pondering on it, because we've got about 3 or 4 minutes for questions, I wanted to ask, because in Patchwork programme cohort 2, we had a number of our first public health teams, and it was almost public health are coming to the table around physical literacy. So I was really interested, Sarah, and obviously Daniel, what your pull to this programme was, the pull to physical literacy, and what do you think it's unlocking? Because your first key learning there is that this has really helped that collaboration at a local level with the place-based investment. So yeah, what was your initial pull, Sarah? I'm really interested to know from a public health perspective.
Actually, my manager, Nicola Kidney, she was doing her public health exam, and she focused, after a discussion with myself, we used to do a lot of menopause work for women's health within our public health team. And even though it wasn't focused on physical activity, we used to deliver a lot of sessions to try and empower people at work and spread understanding of menopause. And so from that, we started to think about the period cycles, girls' health in general. And Nicola wrote her subject for her exam on girls and the dropout of physical activity and the barriers. And she shared it with me along the way. And I think that's where my passion came. I just thought, I've got 3 little girls that I'm bringing up to be moving a lot of the time through their want to rather than being forced to. My background was as a dancer, and so when I did my own movement journal, when we started this program, I was really up there high when I started dancing, but then maybe relationships or having children dropped my relationship down. Yeah, so I think that's where my drive come from. And then I was lucky enough to see that this program existed, and that was a focus, children and young people. Yeah, and help sort of drive us forward and change the way public health think as well through all of our programs. We're very lucky in Medway to have such a great public health team, that now with the physical literacy, this is being taught to our early years settings. This is being rolled out to our healthy weight settings. So it's really been taken aboard by the whole team.
I love that. Thank you, Sarah. And like I said, it's just been great to see it, because I think physical literacy has definitely taken root in education and community sport quicker than public health. So I was really interested to hear that perspective. Thank you. We might have time for one more question. Does anyone want to ask a question? Come off mute. Conscious people are probably melting. If anyone's happy who has presented this afternoon, if you're happy to share an email address, there was so much chat about different research happening around girls' participation, relationships with movement. It would be great to keep that conversation going outside of this session today. So honestly, all of you this afternoon, especially to our presenters, it has been a real pleasure to work with you over the last 9 months on the Patchwork programme. And I think this is just kind of the start of the journey. Both projects that you've mentioned today, this is a culture change piece. It's around putting girls at the heart of our design, to help them build that great relationship with movement. So a huge thank you. Deborah, shall I come to you just to do the final wrap up?
Yeah, thank you. So thank you to the teams for all the energy you've put in, like Charlie said, over the last 9 months, and sharing some of that today. Charlie, thank you for chairing wonderfully again. And thank you everybody for staying with us. We are so happy that we've had such fabulous turnout this afternoon. It's really, really, yeah, it's amazing. So we are going to let you go and maybe have a nice cold drink in the shade. But before I go, I just want